Okay, hello friends. Uh, in this tutorial, we are going to discuss on the interview questions of the React. So we will start with the React questions which are asked in the interviews. So we have a list of questions. Okay, so you can see these are the list of questions which we are going to discuss one by one, so that you will be easily going to understand each topic and each questions which are asked by the interview. So these questions are basically for 1 to 6 year of experience, up to 6, because this doesn't cover the scenario based. Okay, so this is only the theory based interview questions for the React. So it may cover up to 6 years of experience, and some of the basic scenario based questions are there. Okay, so we start with the first question: what is React? So if you are not familiar with React, or you are a beginner, or you are not have much overview, so basically React is a JavaScript library. Okay, so it uses the JavaScript language. Okay, so basically React was developed by the Jordan Wach, which was a software engineer at Facebook. So so at the end, Facebook is maintaining this React.js. Okay, and this React.js is open source. Okay, so anyone can change accordingly if we get the license to change. Okay, so basically what is react.js? React.js is used to create a single page application. Okay, what is single page application? Single page application is just a application which has only one HTML page. Okay, so the react.js application will be have only one single page, index.html, and all the rest things will be re-rendered according to the page or the URL. It re-renders inside the same index.html. Okay, so what are the benefits? You can see that you have to use the components in the react.js. Okay, so there will be the main component, and inside there will be the multiple child components. So it's called the parent component, child component. So it works on the parent child components hierarchy. Okay, and react.js was the introduced the latest version of the reactjs was introduced on the 22nd March 2021, which was the 17.0.2, is the latest version. Okay, so it may be asked in your interview questions, what is the latest version? Okay, and you can use JavaScript and TypeScript both with this React.js. Okay, so what is need for the React.js? Means what are the environment you need to develop a React application? So basically you need a Node.js environment basically for the React development. Okay, and you can use the IDE like VS Code. Okay, and what is we also used you with this React, you can use the Redux for state management with this React applications. Okay, so this is the introduction about the React.js. So you can tell that React.js is a library of JavaScript. Okay, it was built by the Facebook engineer Jordan Wach, and the latest version is 17.0.2. It is used to create the single page applications, and the React Native is also used for developing the mobile app as well. Okay, okay. So going to the next question. Okay, what is functional component? What is functional component? So you know that in React we make only the components. Okay, so in the React.js, components are of two types. One is functional and second is class type component. Okay, so in functional component, we only create a function and return the virtual DOM. Okay, so this is the functional component, and it is a stateless component. Okay, so in functional component, we use the hooks to convert it into the stateful component. To manage a state inside the functional component, we use the hooks. Okay, so basically functional component is nothing but a simple thing, a simple function which returns the virtual DOM. Okay, what is class component? So third one question is, what is class component? So basically we use the class keyword of ES6 to create a component. Okay, so basically class extends the component feature of the React. Okay, so we have class in JavaScript and we use the extend keyword to inherit the properties of the React component. Okay, so inbuilt React have a component called react.component. You can inherit from that and extend your features inside your own class. Okay, so this is called the class component. So basically class has the all concepts of oops. What is it, because in class you have inheritance, you can use interface, you can use this operator inside the constructor, destructor, like that. Okay, so the a class component is a stateful component. Okay, so you know that the functional component is a stateless, and whereas the class component is has state, its own state, and you can use the state inside your constructor to you can initialize this dot state inside your constructor. Okay, so in class component, you have your own lifecycle hooks called lifecycle methods. Okay. So next question is what are the features of React.js? So basically creating a React application, the benefits or the main features of the React is that you can create a single page application. Second one is it uses the unidirectional data flow. Okay, it doesn't use the bidirectional or multi-directional, so it uses the unidirectional because it it stores or it updates all the data inside the state, and it uses the data from the state. So the direction of the flow of the data goes to state and then from state to UI. So it's only a unidirectional. But it and then its feature is virtual DOM. So the main feature, the biggest feature of React.js, um, it compares to like Vue.js and AngularJS, Angular and Vue, that it uses the virtual DOM. Virtual DOM is thing that you return the JSX things from the render or return, and you use that JSX to means to write your virtual DOM. Okay, and virtual DOM is thing that you don't have to go and call the DOM element, real DOM element directly and update them. You just create the virtual DOM and replace, compile and replace them on to the where you want to render that virtual DOM. Okay, so this increases your performance, memory, you saves your memory, and also it reduces your time, and it reduces the complexity of the updating the virtual means DOM. And fourth one is SSR, server-side rendering. So React also helps you to create a server-side rendering application with the help of Next.js. You can use the Next.js framework for creating the server-side rendering. Okay. Now the next question is differentiate between real DOM and virtual DOM. So the difference is that real DOM is what you write in the HTML is the real DOM, and virtual DOM is what you write in the JSX HTML as a JSX. Okay, so in real DOM we write the normal HTML, whereas in virtual DOM we write the JSX XML type JavaScript HTML. Okay, and the benefits of using the virtual DOM is that it is very fast, and real DOM updation and manipulation is very slow compared to virtual DOM, and it reduces your memory because if you have to use the large performance, then you will take the large amount of memory to compile or process. So it takes virtual DOM takes less amount of time, money, time and memory. Okay. Now come to the list some of the major advantages of React. The major advantage of React is that it increases the performance first of all. Second thing is that you have to write only one single HTML page. Third one is that if you create React application, the browser doesn't reload when you change the routing. Means if you click on the next page or something, the browser will not load. reload, so it saves your lots of time to re-rendering the whole page. Okay, and mode is that it is based on the component based, so you can easily reuse the component. Means you, if you want to use something which code is, means you want to use, let's suppose you want to use a widget two times in your component, so you have to write only one code for that and you have to recode again and again. So these are the major advantages of React. Okay, next one is why can't browser read JSX? See, browser can't directly read the JSX because JSX is the JavaScript XML or extension. Okay, so to compile these things, we use the Babel. Okay, so why we use Babel? You know that we have to compile the JavaScript XML to the JavaScript HTML. So we have to use the transpiling process. For the transpiling process, we use the Babel. What is the React? Okay, how is React different from Angular? Basically, Angular is a framework and the React is a library. So the main difference is this one. Second is that Angular works on the MVC pattern framework. Okay, and React only works on the view pattern, means V pattern. Okay, so in Angular you will see that there is a separate template, there is a separate controller, and there is a model. Okay, so they have three layers, but in React you have only one component, and inside that component you have virtual DOM written there. So you don't have to write any HTML or something. Okay, and Angular is a very fast framework, whereas React is a simple library. You can easily understand and use with them. And the next difference is that Angular uses two-way data binding, whereas React uses the one-way data directional flow. Okay. Now next question is, what is the purpose of render in React? So basically, purpose of render is to place your virtual DOM inside the real DOM. Okay, means what this does, render basically is a process in which your virtual DOM is filled with your data or whatever the data or event you have bind, and then it compiles and it renders, means place this your virtual DOM package inside the real DOM where you have given the ID to place them. Okay, what is props? The next question is, what is props? Props is basically the properties which you get from your parents or something where you have been called. Means you will get the props who calls you. Okay, means it's a type of data, initial data which you get when when your component starts. Okay, when your component is called, you have been given some data. Okay, that is called props. Okay, so props may be the whole property of the parent as well, or some small properties. Okay, so props is basically not, is a basically read only property. Okay, so you can't update or delete or something in your props properties. Okay, so props cannot be changed inside your component. Okay, so what is state in a React? See, state is basically a small store. Okay, which stores the current state. Okay, of your means of your current component. If something changes in the state, it keeps the previous state and changes the next state, and this state is mutable, means you can change it. Okay, so in functional component, you use the hook called use state to create your own state inside your functional component, whereas in uh, class component, you will use this dot state inside your constructor to initialize your state, and then you will call this dot set state to change your state. So what is difference between state and props? So basically the first one is that state can be changed inside your component, whereas the props cannot be changed inside your component. Second one is props is get outside from the component, and the state is declared inside the component. Okay, and third one is that props can be accessed using the props dot something, and you will use this dot state if you are using the state inside your class component. This dot state dot something, where is an function component, you will just use the state variable whatever you have been defined with using the use state. Okay, now the next question is how can you update the state of a component. So in class component you have this dot set state to update your state, whereas in function component you will give your setter name, get set name, like set name, set value, whatever you have to provide your name according to the state variable. Okay. Next one is butter hooks. So basically, if you are asked for the hooks only, then you can think about only the functional component, because hooks are only used in the functional component. So you know that the functional component is a stateless component. So with the help of hooks, we make it to the stateful component. So there are multiple hooks for multiple operations. Some of the basic hooks are, and some of the additional hooks which are used rarely according to our scenarios. So the some of the hooks you can see on our screen, that the basic hooks are use state, use effect, and use context. These three are mostly used. Okay, so use state is, is used to create your state. Use effect is used for basically for 4 scenario. There are multiple scenario to use the use effect. Basically, use effect is called when your render process is done. Once it is done, means the render is done on the UI, and it fires. Okay, so basically the use effect is basically the side effect, called the side effect. Side effect means it's the rendering side effect. After rendering, what will happen will be decided in the inside the use effect. So use effect has 4 scenario to be used. So first is for every, means every scenario, means if there is any change inside your component, use effect will be fired every time. Every time means whenever there will be change in your component will re-render, and the logic inside the your use effect will be fired. Second one is once. So once denotes that it only fires on the first initialization of your component. Means once the component render, and it will fired, and if there is any updation, then this will not be getting fired. Okay. The third one is watch. You can keep watch on a variable. Let's suppose you have a state and called count. If the count increase and you want to execute some event, so for that you will keep watch with the help of effect on the variable count. And fourth one is exit. So in the exit case means whenever the cycle completes, like update cycle or first mounting cycle of your component, then it fires. Means after leaving the component, means once the component gets destroyed, so before getting to destroy, it will be called. So the third one is use context. Use context is basically to use to provide the context provider. You can create the context provider with the help of context. Context is basically, it helps you to minimize the use of props. See, if there are multiple nested components and you want to send some data from parent to the last child, so if you are using normal props, then you have to pass the prop from child to child to child to the last child. So to avoid using the props in all child components, we use to create the context, and we declare the context, and we wrap that component parent component inside the context provider, and we will get all the value when in which whatever the component child component is that you can take out that from the context with the help of use context hook inside your function component, and context you can set the context type inside your class component, and you can use this dot context to get the context inside your class component. So in class component you can use the create create context to create your context. Okay, so for now, for today, this much is there, and for next sessions we will start discuss from this additional hooks and further. Okay, thanks.